All right. This looks like it could be working now. Let's go ahead and... All right, guys.
Tell them to click on that.
I just go to this stream. All right. Let's see if this is actually working. Yep, we're live here. All right.
Hi
hey,
again.
guys. Sorry. So sorry. I don't know what the deal is. It just, I guess the streaming software just decided not to work. So hopefully everybody's going to be able to jump on over to this stream since the other one decided to be a big jerk. I commented on that. So sorry for the weird delayed start, everybody. Hopefully everybody's going to be able to find us. Now we have none of our links are down below because I just had to quickly create a new broadcast. But thank you guys for being patient. Anyway, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
It's Bossip and List Day.
Yay.
What? So what's Bossip and List Day?
It is every Wednesday, our all-day virtual listing party, where we check in with our coworkers, which is you, all of our fellow resellers in the Boss Facebook group. The link is usually down below. It will be on the replay of this video.
Yeah.
If you're not in the Boss Facebook group, you should be, because it is the best group, we think. But we check in with our virtual coworkers and kind of talk about our goals and set our goals for the day, sometimes for the week, and hold ourselves accountable. And at about 11 o'clock, we check in here with our live businessy type show, and this is one of them. It's not a show where we talk about our hauls or our sales. We'll talk about changes on eBay, changes on the platform, different types of software and programs we use, and things like that. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to update the boss post in the group with the new link, just so hopefully people don't get confused and trying to figure out where we are. Anyway, hello everybody. Clark was trading. Amanda says that you look so pretty and glowy today.
Well, thank you. I showered.
Always appreciated. You're much better at that than me.
Yeah, she's kind of stinky.
How dare you?
Last night we had a fantastic meetup. I see we've got Nate in the chat here. Nate came for the first time last night, him and his wife. And we had a really good meetup last night, I think. We've had several. I think October is our first official year as a meetup since we started our local Las Vegas meetup. We were doing an unofficial one for almost a year before that, where we would meet anywhere from 5 to 10 of us would meet for lunch every month or every other month. And we kind of just got to know each other and hang out. But our first, our actual official meetup where we created the group and started talking about it it's almost been a year. So
crazy.
I'm kind of excited about that. And we've had some really good growth. We have about 85 people in our meetup page itself. Some of them are out-of-staters that have occasionally popped in or want to pop in at some point.
Maybe like 50 of them are local.
I would say about 50 of them are local. Susan, listen,
Susan.
I'm going to come pick your ass up and bring you back to make sure you make it. But yeah, so we have a solid, I want to say about solid 40 people have made it to at least one meetup, and some come every month and some come every other month. Anyway, we really enjoy it. We enjoy, connecting with fellow resellers and having fun.
Yep.
And discussing eBay and the trials and tribulations thereof.
Of course. Rick Dorn of Thrift Fever says that my haircut is rocking.
Woo!
And speaking of people who don't show up, Maui Delights, okay? You made up for it with your $5 super chat, but come on, you're here local. Are we ever going to see you at a meetup?
I know. Katie hasn't even met you yet.
I haven't even met you yet.
The one time I met you is at a fundraiser for pancreatic cancer. Had nothing to do with eBay.
The Maui Delights, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Give you a little super chat song. Super chat. She's super chatty. Yow. There's a little extra.
Little extra.
As usual. Anyway, thank you so much, Maui Delights. But seriously, you need to come to one of our meetups and hang out with us.
Yeah, we had so much fun. And last night was a great meetup. We actually had 6 new people come, which is always a good time. I love meeting new sellers, especially new local resellers. So it's a lot of fun.
Excuse me, Kent.
Kent
says it got weird again. I would like to say that usually when things get weird, Kent's around because I've never met Kent, okay, but he's a little weird himself. But we appreciate that. So thanks a lot, Kent.
Kent, you add a lot of levity to the chat, and I like that. You're very witty. And yes, Sandra, I have PTSD from super chats. I kind of, you notice I flinch. Yeah. I flinch a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Heather Lemont asked, how long have I had pink hair? So I've had some semblance of red or pink hair for going on, I think, about 12 or 13 years now. Mostly pink, almost always pink. I've always gone back to pink, and it's solidly been pink for a good 4 or 5 years now, I think. So I'm excited.
So let's talk about the crazy news that is all over the place this morning with Devin Wenig, Devin Wenig, the CEO of eBay, or no longer because he stepped down. It was all over the news this morning. It was kind of interesting because I was seeing like on CNBC and like CNN. All these people like talking about what's going on with that. So it's kind of all over the news. But yeah, so he has stepped down.
We were at the gym this morning. I know, shocking. Yeah. But anyway, we're trying to do this healthy thing again. So we were at the gym this morning at about 7:15, and Katie's like sending me a message from the other side of the gym because she's on the bike and I'm on working out on some weights, and she's like, Devin stepped down.
Well, I get all of my news from Casey. Just kidding, but basically, I had messaged Casey Paris, Rockstar Flipper, because we're actually going to be on his show, on his live show tomorrow night. He has his live show on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. his time, I believe, or maybe it's 6. Anyway, I can't remember. I'm going to make sure that we. Maybe it's 6 o'clock our time. I think it's 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock his time. Anyway, so I had messaged him and I was just like, hey, just making sure, like, what time do you need us and what's the topic going to be? And he was like, well, Devin Wenig just stepped down, so I guess that's what we're going to be talking about. And I was like, what?
I think he's already addressing that today, though. Honestly, most YouTubers are addressing it in some format today.
Oh, he already put a video up, but it was only like a couple of minutes, so it's just like something that we'll be talking about. But so obviously, because we have our show today, we're going to be talking about it.
So here's the situation. If you follow Devin, I don't know what I'm going to say about the situation is, first of all, obviously there's nothing any of us can do about it. It is what it is. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. Generally speaking, when you have a CEO or a CFO of a major corporation step down or be removed from their position, it doesn't mean a heck of a lot in the trickle-down effect with us. Clearly, the only person that the CEO or the CFO is responsible to is the board and the stockholders, and not us, not sellers, not buyers. His position, frankly, has very little to do with us and how the company is run. What I will say is I've been on eBay for almost 20 years, and I remember a few other CEOs.
Well, he's the third, so.
Yeah. And I will say that Devin is probably the best out of the three. I did like Meg, but Devin was the best out of the three as far as bringing his position and what he did down to be at a level where the sellers did feel like they had access to him, and they felt like they were understood by somebody who ran the corporation. The person that was before Devin, anyone that's been on eBay for a long time, I know Victoria Smith is in the chat. Anyone that's been on eBay for a long time knows that the years before Devin, when Donahoe was the CEO, we call the dark years on eBay. They were not good. Those were not good years for being an eBay seller. If you made it through those dark years as an eBay seller, then you're a good seller because the cards were stacked against us. So love him or hate him, Devin was really good and accessible for the sellers. And I think that he actually understood the platform and what we went through as sellers. And I think he tried to take that into consideration with a lot of the changes that happened under him. So, I mean, you can love or hate eBay as a platform, anybody that works for them, whatever, it's your own personal opinion. I just know being on the platform as long as I have been, there have been far more positive changes on eBay under Devin's tutelage than prior.
Tutelage?
Yeah.
Well, so I want to talk more about like what actually is going on, like right now with this. So at the beginning of the year, I believe it was at the beginning of the year, there were new board members that came on. It's a new board. And so there's this, there's an investment company or whatever, Elliott Management, who had stepped onto the board. And so there's been a lot of talk over the past several months. I see Sunny Raisin says something about them selling all their assets. So that's not what's happening. So Elliott Management came on. They played a big role in a lot of the layoffs that happened over this last year. If you remember when a bunch of layoffs happened at eBay, and of course people freaked out about that because they came on and they had a lot of ideas of what they thought eBay should be doing to kind of turn things around. And to deal with what they saw as a lot of money being misused, or not misused, but just like not great management of like how things were going on in the company.
Like the StubHub division.
Yeah, it's
not a profitable division.
So a couple of things that they've been really pushing for is for eBay to sell off StubHub, and also the classifieds, whatever that thing is, part of that eBay owns. And it's been being talked about for the last several months that Devin did not agree with that, with what they wanted to do. And so clearly things have gotten kind of more heated. And I'm actually going to share the screen really quick, because if you go and look at Devin's Twitter today, he actually tweeted some stuff that I think sheds a little bit of light on what has happened. And so, whoa, I don't know what that's all about, guys. I don't know why that's.
Maybe we'll just read it instead of sharing it.
Well, no, I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna redo it here and see if I can. Sorry, guys, I'm not trying to make anybody have go into an epileptic seizure here.
It may be Kijiji, that's still in Canada. That is, but they do call it eBay Classifieds. I'm not sure if eBay owns Kijiji. That's not something that is in the U.S.
So anyway, so he tweeted earlier today. He said, in the past few weeks, it became clear that I was not on the same page as my new board. Whenever that happens, it's best for everyone to turn that page over. It's been an incredible privilege to lead one of the world's great businesses for the past 8 years. So it really sounds like they weren't able to come to an agreement or compromise with some of the changes that the new board wanted. And so it sounds like maybe Devin just quit over it. I don't know.
I'm sure we're never going to know the real answer, nor is it really any of our business. But I will say it definitely sounds like he resigned versus he was pushed out.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is because there is no one in place already.
Yeah.
So they put someone in in the interim, who's one of the money guys, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I think the CFO, they moved up to CEO.
And now they have somebody else stepping in as interim CFO.
So, the fact that they didn't already have someone in place for such an enormous position leads me to believe that he probably quit.
Yeah.
And people, I've heard some chatter back and forth. Oh, why would you quit when you have a position like that? Listen, when you have a position like that and you make that kind of money, you have the ability to quit and take any job you want. And
if it's been like months now of disagreeing with the board, not able to get to any kind of compromise, then maybe it's, in his mind, it's like, why does he want to work in his position any longer when he can leave? And I'm sure find another job running a different company.
He'll be snatched up by this afternoon. I'm sure he's already fielding offers.
Yeah, for sure. I just think it's funny, this first reply from whoever this person, Brad, is. Your good till canceled policy along with this new managed payment system are two of the worst things I have ever witnessed. Mm-hmm. It ruins selling on eBay. So, speaking of what you were talking about, I've only been with eBay. I've bought and sold off and on for years, but I really have only been with eBay for the past 4 years. Devin's been the CEO for 8 years. So I have absolutely no knowledge of what it was like under past CEOs. But like you were saying, I've heard a lot of bad things.
Mm-hmm. Meg was fantastic. Meg was excellent. But it was also a much, much, much smaller company and much more intimate company. When Meg was the CEO, she was definitely a fairly accessible person for a person in her position. And she did care about the sellers. But eBay was a smaller company, and the amount of sellers were a lot smaller. Technology was smaller.
But there were a lot of really positive changes that happened with Devin. My understanding is that he's the one that brought back eBay Live, which is now called eBay Open. And, he had a lot to do with how accessible eBay employees, like you were saying earlier, eBay employees, eBay execs have been to sellers. It's something that, any of you that sell on Amazon, it's like you're not hanging out with, people from Amazon and getting that kind of access.
You're a number with most other platforms. Just a little side example. I'm dealing with my very first Etsy issue where I had to ask Etsy to step in because the seller is a whack job. I mean, the buyer is a whack job. And, you know, it happens, but I had to ask them to step in, and they totally backed the buyer and not me. And it's turned into a bit of a cluster. 90 days after they bought something, sending weird threatening messages. It's just insane. And they force you to give a refund as soon as they upload tracking information. You don't even have to have the item back before they give you a refund. You have to give a refund. So it didn't go in my favor, even though it should have.
Right.
But they don't care. That's just, you know, you're gonna get a person.
And the thing is, listen, we're going to get into some of the issues with eBay here in a few minutes, because I do want to say, like, yes, there are definitely things that need to be improved and things that have gone downhill as of late, especially over the last year. But I do want to say, you know, that I think that people have a tendency when their sales aren't going the way they want them to, when they don't think things are going well, they want to blame it on somebody else. They want to blame it on something else. And eBay is obviously the biggest target because eBay is the platform. And so automatically, you know, saying that managed payments is the worst thing that ever happened, or like the good till canceled, worst thing that ever happened. It's like, oh, okay, well, I think that's a bit overblown. I do think that a lot of the changes that have happened in the last few years, and some of the changes that have happened just in this last update, have been really, really positive as far as seller protection. And the reality is that if you are following all the best practices and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing when it comes to selling on eBay, more often than not, eBay does protect you and have your back, which is why I'm actually looking forward to, like, ultimately when managed payments completely rolls out, because I've been burned a few times with PayPal, and there's nowhere you can turn with them, and it's really difficult. But anyway, but I will say, as far as like the last year goes, like, I do think that a lot has gone downhill as far as communication goes, communicating with sellers.
And I think part of that is because Bob is no longer, you know, taking care of sellers the way he was. You know, R.I.P. Bob. He's not dead.
Well,
but
and I don't think it's so much. It's not just that Bob left. It's that nobody has stepped in to to fill that void. And so whatever reasons may have been behind Bob leaving, from the seller perspective, from our perspective, looking from the outside, and our relationships with Bob, it felt like at that time, like, oh, there's somebody at eBay that actually listens to sellers. And now I got to say, it doesn't feel like that's the case anymore. We
don't really have good representation at eBay as sellers right now. So, because nobody has filled Bob's position. Well, someone just filled his position, but I'm pretty sure he's still playing catch up and doesn't know who anybody is yet.
We don't know what that's going to look like yet.
Yeah. You know, so there's a lot of changes on the horizon with how eBay is going to look as a platform for a seller.
Yeah.
As far as what they're going to be doing on the back end, or you know, the main end, I should say, to take care of their investors and the stock prices and sales and quarterly earnings and all that kind of stuff. We have no control over that. You know, but I will say we do have some type of influence and input on how sellers are handled and how changes happen on the platform at the bottom level, which is our level. We're really the bottom level. And that's what going to eBay Open and participating and becoming part of the eBay community, getting on a couple of maybe the eBay discussion boards, or at least in some of the groups. We have a lot of eBay employees that are incognito in the boss group, just so you know, in different departments. So they read our posts. And when we tell you to keep criticism constructive, but we want to know when there are issues, because the attention is drawn to them, or we draw their attention to the issues so that they can hear it from the ground level up. They're not sellers. Most of the higher end or higher up people on eBay are not sellers. Bob was the first one to joke about it. It took him 3 days to ship his packages out. He was, he had some stuff for sale. He was terrible at answering questions.
He didn't take returns, you guys.
He didn't take returns. I bought something from Bob. I don't know who the heck shipped it to me, but it took a while. I'll tell you that. So they don't know what it's like as someone that does this as a steady income or a steady business necessarily. And they don't necessarily know about these things until we bring them to their attention. Right. So it's important to, try to stay.
Well, and I think that
involved.
eBay has some really good people there that are very seller centric. I think like for example, Dom Hollins, if you were at eBay Open this year, like getting it like 2 seconds to even talk to her was almost impossible, because sellers wanted all of her time, because guess what? She listens to sellers and she makes things happen. And it's not, I feel like right now but she runs one small program, the seller diversity program. And so there's only so much she can do. And when it comes to the larger seller community right now, I think there is a huge void on the eBay side, because there's nobody that's really putting in the proper amount of time and care into connecting with the eBay community, and not just being a part of the eBay community, but actually listening to us. I feel like there's a certain amount of eBay not understanding the concept of the world of social media, and that when something these days happens with eBay, it will move through the community like wildfire. And there's a lack of response to that that I think like they're kind of behind on. And I think that was pretty evident with what's happening with the promoted listings issue. And we've talked about it. We don't think it's that. We think that it's not something to panic over. We think that it's something that is, it's changes that are being made right now. More changes will be made to improve it. And it's not something to freak out about. But it is still a concern. And it's clear that it's a huge concern within the seller community. And there's yet to be any real addressing of that concern directly to us sellers. I think that for a couple of YouTube videos to come up and then they are reached out alone and communicated with, and then that information has to be given to us secondhand. Mm-hmm. It's like, I trust Ryan and Allie Roots. Like I believe that whatever, they said to Ryan, what he communicated back out to us is accurate, but that doesn't account for how people interpret things. And when it's like playing telephone, when you hear a conversation and then you pass it along to other people, some stuff gets lost along the way.
It also doesn't necessarily mean that the people that they spoke with are the right people to get accurate answers from.
Well, and it's like
we've all had this experience when you call eBay, whether you have concierge or you have the standard customer service, depending on who you speak to, you may get 6 different answers to the same question.
Right, exactly, which is why it's like, hello, when something like this happens, why is there not communication? And now I also understand that on the other side, when you're talking about a huge corporation like eBay,
they don't
when something
owe us
happens,
these explanations.
No, just hear me out. When something like this happens, they can't just immediately come out and be like, here's the answer, and here's what's happening, blah, blah, blah. There's legal issues to deal with. There's different avenues they have to go through. But at the very least, why not be like, hey guys, we see that something is happening that a lot of people are very concerned about. We understand that this is causing a lot of, anxiety within the seller community. Mm-hmm. Here's what we're trying to figure out. We want to be able to communicate to you the answers, blah, 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 blah. There's ways to immediately address a problem without necessarily giving all the answers if they aren't ready to do that yet.
So Kent, it wasn't the guy in charge of listings that he spoke with. He did speak to someone that was on the promoted listings team, but it was not an engineer that could answer the appropriate questions. And then the other person he talked to was Brian, who's just has to do with the seller community. Yeah,
like Jameson's Closet says, eBay's terrible with communication. And you know what? I actually absolutely 100% agree with that. I am an eBay cheerleader to a certain degree. It's my favorite platform. I know. But let me hear me out. It is my favorite platform. It's a platform I'm able to make the most money at because I get the biggest exposure to the largest audience of buyers. I do think that ultimately, I think Kent said earlier, the board wants to make money. And I think that because they want to make money, we're the ones that make the money for them. Ultimately, all of our goals are the same. We all want to make more money. So I don't think there's anything to I don't think there's anything negative happening.
Right.
But I think that they are terrible at communication. And they don't take seriously. They don't seem to give enough weight to the idea that when something is being talked about within throughout social media, within the seller community, that it's important that it's be addressed. Mm-hmm. and that it matters what sellers think.
Sandra's correct. Sandra's correct. They did talk about the promoted listing thing twice in the eBay for Business podcast. And I did listen to it. And again, it was still as clear as mud.
But that was before the whole ad block, because that wasn't what the big kerfluffle was about.
Right.
Yes, people were like confused about the changes that were happening with the seller update with promoted listings. So yes, they did address that multiple times without really bringing true clarity to it. But when everything blew up about the whole ad block thing and what that meant to our listings and how we were being seen, that's a big concern for people. And nobody has yet to really address that or have any kind of Q&A or talk about it. It's like, they talked to a couple of other people and we're just supposed to listen to them.
Because the engineers have not stepped up and actually talked about it. And I get it. The engineers are not the ones that are going to be the face of eBay that are going to have these communications, but they need to be speaking to the people at eBay that are. And that's the problem. Nobody really understands exactly what the answer is. We're only using statistics and supposition.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
It is what it is. But the reality is we shouldn't be freaking out. Things happen. CEOs change. Leaderships change. We liked some of the things that Devin did while he was the CEO. Some other things we didn't think were handled well. We think the last year was a bit of maybe a push, maybe, I don't know. And so hopefully with somebody new coming in, maybe some better changes will happen in the future. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that all we can do is continue to work and adapt to any changes that do come and be ready to adapt to things. Because ultimately, that's the only way you're going to succeed. You know, people talk about like, oh, eBay's dying, or apparently eBay has been ruined.
All right, let's address some of the questions, because you can go on forever and ever.
Well, I wanted to give some props to Nate, because they were let me finish this thought, because apparently eBay's been ruined. eBay is dying. Nobody can make a living on eBay anymore because it has been properly ruined by everyone at eBay. But the reality is we just had, so Nate was here last night with his wife, Elizabeth, and they've only been selling for what, like just under a year or about a year?
A shorter period of time. I don't know. Nate will probably talk
about a year. Sure. And yet 3 weeks ago, Nate quit his job. Why did Nate quit his job?
Because he was making more money selling part-time on eBay than he was working full-time
at his regular job. How can he do that when eBay's been ruined?
Yeah.
And eBay's dead and can't. So, but why do you think somebody new can come in and be successful on eBay?
Because they're coming in with a positive attitude and learning all they can possibly learn to make themselves the best seller they can be.
And they don't all have all the baggage of like, back in my day when eBay was better and used to work.
And we threw everything up and everything sold. Yeah. So there's a lot of questions here. One of the things I want to address, thrifting in the mitten. So how do I
well, you're on the wrong.
Okay.
Don't try to do tech things.
Well, it's not going to work. You just let all the chat go, and there's a million questions in
all
there.
All right, hold on. I got to find it.
Trying to do our job and
yeah. I'm trying to find it. Which one do you want to look
at? Thrift in the mitten.
Okay, thrift in the mitten.
It's way behind on here. There we go. Okay.
All right.
So I sold an item today through sending an offer to a buyer. Was charged a promoted listing fee. Called eBay. They said if you promote your listing, no matter how it sells, you pay that fee. First of all, whoever you talk to is absolutely wrong. That is not true.
Well,
if you.
Yes, continue.
That is not true. You absolutely do not pay a promoted listing fee if you sell the item, no matter how it is sold. That's not true. The reason why you paid a promoted listing fee is because at some point within the last 30 days, that buyer clicked on your promoted listing, and that might be how they brought it to how they were watching it or how it was in their cart. So if that's always been the case, that has never changed. Promoted listings have been around for 3.5 years. If a buyer clicks on your item and they watch it or they save it or they look at it and they come back and buy it at any point in that 30-day period, you are going to be charged a promoted listing fee that was current the first time they clicked on it. So if you had your items at promoted listings and then you took them all off and then you're selling them and you're still getting promoted listing fees, it's because originally your buyer clicked on it while your promoted listing was still in effect. Yeah. So that's the way that works. That's nothing new. The way that they worded that or the way that you interpreted that was not correct. I'm not saying they didn't say it that way. If they did, they were wrong. That's not the way it works.
So Firebird, that's actually Mary, says, sadly, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. Even two programmers sitting next to each other may be working on two different things that unintentionally affect each other. And that's absolutely true. So not only are there some issues with communication out to the seller world, but I will say, I know for a fact that last year when the whole picture palooza happened and a bunch of people's pictures got deleted, that was because of a change that a different department made. They make a change and then it ends up like unintentionally affecting something else. And that's how a bunch of our pictures just disappeared. And that's all about like interdepartment communication.
So people talking about the promoted listing thing. Here's the thing. I have not changed my promoted listings. Every single thing that I have in my store is being promoted at this time, unless I've listed it in the last week. I usually wait a week or 10 days. And my promoted listing sales are still around 40 to 45% through promoted listings, and the rest are organic. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep doing what I do and see how it happens and what changes. So
yeah. So Nature Girl says, if eBay expects us to provide the best customer service to customers and bend over backwards at times, taking it up the shouldn't they do the same for us as we are their customers? I don't disagree with you with the fact that we are their customers. I do think that the majority of the time, in my experience, and I get that my experience is different from other people's, the majority of the time, I do think that they do support us when it comes to issues coming up with our sales. I do think they provide us good customer service generally, especially
for a company as big as it is. Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, if you have the concierge service, if you are fortunate enough to have that, then good for you. If you don't have concierge service, you should always be contacting eBay for Business through their Facebook page, as opposed to sitting on hold for half an hour to wait for someone who barely speaks English.
Yeah, I do think they
Sorry.
do better. I do think they do better by their sellers than a lot of people acknowledge or realize.
If you
and
sold on
especially
other
if you were-
platforms, you'd know the difference.
other platforms, or if you were around with the last CEO, I don't think, and with the improvements that they're making, like I said, to seller protections with this latest update. I mean, man, if you had your first problem with Etsy, having a case opened, and I mean, how easy was that to resolve?
It's already taken me 3 weeks, and I'm being forced to refund a buyer that purchased something almost 3 months ago. Sent abusive, harassive, ridiculous messages for 2 months after I told them to return it 2.5 months ago if they didn't like it. And you have to refund the buyer as soon as they provide a tracking number. Who knows what the heck I'm going to get back?
Who knows? And a lot of the problem is like, you don't even know who you turn to. It's like with eBay. Okay, I can call the number. I can open a case. I can write to eBay for Business. I can message whoever it is on Twitter. Like, there are different avenues where you can get a real person to address an issue, even if, yes, sometimes you have to do a lot of runaround. But I don't even know how to do that on Etsy. Amazon, forget about it.
I don't know how to call anybody.
Forget about it on Amazon.
You can't even contact customer service on Etsy. The buyer has to. The buyer has to initiate it.
Yeah.
So
and who knows for Mercari or Poshmark? I have no clue because I don't sell on those platforms.
What level has concierge service? So concierge service is something that anyone that has gone to eBay Open for the past 3 years has received.
Yeah, but they've also given it to, I mean, we don't really know who else gets it. I know that they're continuing to expand the program. I'm hoping that means eventually everyone will have it, because it really is excellent customer service compared to what you would get on
even
any other
if you
platform.
do not honestly attend eBay Open. Buying your ticket and not attending is worth it just for concierge service. We've said that a couple of times. So the other thing is that if you have an anchor store or higher, you do have dedicated customer service. But I realize obviously not everybody has that. I've only had an anchor store for like the last 6 or 7 months personally. So,
but it's huge. Let me tell you. Well, excuse you.
Sorry.
It's very loud.
I have to keep my phone on because I have an in-person cash sale happening right after the show, hopefully.
Yeah. Anyway, but the other thing I talked about, it was in the description of this video when it was the other video, but I'll have to add it back later. But I want to talk about a big part of it is adaptability. So I was just talking about Nate, he's able to quit his job after less than a year, because he was making more money with eBay. And there's plenty of other people I can think of off the top of my head, like Colleen, who's only been doing this for a couple of years and she's killing it.
Yeah.
I think she's flying right past us.
Oh yeah. She's total. Her sales are bigger than mine.
Yeah.
We did a store review for her and her sales are higher than mine now.
So all these new sellers that are coming into the picture and are being successful, part of what that tells me is, first of all, they don't have the baggage of how things used to be. Because the reality is, in any industry, at the very beginning, there's no competition. And as things move on, obviously more and more competition comes along. So it takes a certain skill set. But I think one of the biggest things is adaptability.
Yeah.
And that's the reality in the world at large anyway. There was a book I read. I wanted to bring this up. There was a book I read years ago, and now it's been out for almost 15 years, but it's called The World is Flat. And it's by, I think I wrote it down here, Thomas Friedman. I don't know if anyone else has read this book, but the whole idea is, I'll try to simplify it as much as possible, at least as far as what I took away from it. The world is flat. The idea is that technology, particularly like the internet and access to computers, has flattened the playing field globally. And so, when things first started with eBay, there was just eBay to do what we do. And not everybody.
eBay was the only game in town.
Nobody had phones that they could list on. And not everybody, had a computer in their house that they could list on. There's people who started their eBay
Nobody
businesses.
Could list on a phone. Let's
right, yes.
There were no smartphones.
Yes, there were no phones. And there were lots of people who started their business at the library, on the computer at the library, because not everybody had computers at home. Now it's no matter who you are, most likely, even if you just have a cheap $150 Chromebook at home, you can manage to do this at home. And so what it does is it flattens the playing field. Anybody can jump into this. And so the people that succeed at it are the people who are able to adapt, right? I don't know, my dad had the same job for decades, and that's the way it used to be. You go to school or whatever, even if you graduate from high school and you go work at a factory, you work at that same job for 30 years, then you retire and you're done.
See, Kent's been on eBay as long as I have, apparently, because he said before the last show, which I've used a couple times now because I really like that expression. He sold Jesus his first pair of sandals on eBay, and now he also sold him his first robe. So I
feel like he's really latched onto that as his claim to fame.
It's good though.
So
it's a good
I mean, the bummer part of it is it's like the best thing that ever happened to Kent in his life was 20 years ago when he first sold on eBay.
I think
just saying.
I think he's referring to the fact he's done it a lot.
Yes, I understand, but he's still talking about it. Okay,
he returns.
It's like that. Was it in the same condition? But anyway, the book talks about how the people, and again, this was first came out like 15 years ago, and it's more true today than it was back then. But the people that are going to succeed in today's world are the people who are able to adapt, because you're going to have to be constantly changing. You can't just have that one job, and you might end up being somebody who's a reseller for 30 years, and then before you finally retire, if you ever can. But still, the platforms change. Everything it's totally different today than it was 20 years ago, and the people are still doing it successfully today. And I think you are the best example of that.
Oh, not the best.
Okay, you're a great example of it.
A lot of people.
Why? Okay, so let me ask you though. Why are you selling this year? You're like what, 30% up from last year? Why?
I'm sourcing better, working harder, listing more.
But what have you had to change in order to make that happen?
I've just had to work harder.
Yeah, but you also had to change like what you source. Like you can't sell the stuff you sold when you first started.
No, of course not. Back when I started, people used to still buy milk glass. Now that's not a thing that people buy very much anymore. But, you just have to constantly keep educating yourself, stay on top of what the trends are, stay on top of, if you're selling trendy items, stay on top of the things that sell for good money, constantly be learning, always be learning, always be cobbling. So you have to constantly just, you like Ken says, yes, you have to evolve. You have to adapt and evolve and learn to work with the platform in the parameters that are set forth in front of you. And if you're constantly trying to buck against the changes and just bitch and moan about every change that happens, all you're doing is breeding more negativity, and that inhibits your selling. So, there is very little on the eBay platform or any platform that we can control, right? And we can't control these big changes as sellers. We can't control who works for the company, who doesn't. We can't control these big edicts that come down when they make these, huge changes, sweeping changes that affect us. Sometimes we can push back enough that they'll back up a little, but it does take a while. eBay is a slow moving, let's picture it as a big ship. A slow moving ship. It does not back up and move quickly. It takes a long time to swing around and turn direction. So, part of that was with these false item not as described claims that have been really prevalent and a bit of an issue for the past several years for sellers on eBay. It took them some time, but they have started to put better protections in place. Usually they swing real, and I was saying this last night in our meetup, so I apologize if it sounds repetitive, but sometimes they swing really, really far in one direction to take care of the sellers and to take care of the buyers, and it starts to harm the sellers. And they hear enough pushback from sellers over time that they start to swing in the other direction, but it takes a long time, and they somehow end up somewhere in the middle usually.
Right.
It's not all for the sellers and it's not all for the buyers, and that's kind of where it has to be. So that's what happens with eBay. That's my experience of what happens with eBay. Other people's mileage may vary. And like I said, last night, if you made it through the years when Donahoe was the CEO of eBay, when it was all seller and screw the buyers, all buyers and screw the sellers. We don't care who the sellers are. It didn't matter. Buyers were returning bricks. Buyers were, it was just, it was bad. The whole DSR thing came into play. It was just bad. Sellers were getting kicked off the platform left and right for nothing they could control. If you made it through that, then you're a good, you're a good seller.
Well, and like Kent says, know the rules well and excel within them. And that's true.
Exactly.
And it's like, and just because you're a seller and eBay makes a change that makes things a little bit harder for sellers doesn't automatically mean that eBay is attacking sellers. So with the changes that they made with item not as described, where they're trying to penalize sellers who have too high a level of item not as described percentages, returns. The reality is that if you eBay at all don't tell me you haven't had a negative experience with a seller. I have gotten so many items that I definitely could have opened item not as described cases on, stains on clothing that weren't disclosed or shown in pictures, things like that. I generally don't, because usually I can go ahead and wash them, whatever. It's like, what, I'm not going to deal with it. But the reality is, I would say way too high percentage of the times, I'm not getting a great experience from other sellers on eBay. It happens a lot, you guys. And when that happens, it's really, really bad for when buyers have those negative experiences, because it drives them away from the platform. And so honestly, eBay needs to be doing stuff about that. And so they started bringing those changes with item not as described, but they went too far, because there was no way for us to report when it was being misused. And so now they put some things in place to hopefully deal with that. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it works, but it needs to happen, because the reality is, like I said, bad sellers drive buyers away. And guess what? We are the professionals, not the buyers. We are the professionals. It's not their job to be at a certain level of professionalism when they're dealing with us as buyers. So, I mean, if you've ever worked in actual retail and have to work with people face to face, there's a lot of jerks out there and weirdos and whatever, and you just kind of have to deal with it to a certain degree.
Yeah, Kent has a good point. Gotta love the sellers complaining, then saying they have 45 listed items. There's an awful lot of that. If you go into certain Facebook groups, we don't really allow it in our group, the whole negativity just to be negative.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that spend 24/7 in Facebook groups bitching and moaning about every little thing about eBay and how this is a scam, that's a scam, this buyer sucks, that buyer sucks, this sucks, my sales are down. Get off the freaking computer and do your job. Start listing things people want. And you know what? You'll have some sales. So the people that are successful don't have the time to complain about it 24/7. But Connecticut Girl.
So Connecticut Girl gave us a $16 super chat. But then she said, well, first of all, she said, you don't sing for us anymore. Okay. Connecticut Girl, a couple things. I did the super chat song earlier, and I would like to point out that before the show even started, Vicky said to me, this is what she said to me, and it hurt me deeply. And I want to know your...
here we go.
It hurt me deeply. She gave $16, so she gets the whole story. Before she says, are you going to sing at the opening of the show like you always do? It's getting a little old. Like 1 minute before the show started. So I'm sitting here like this, like, you just took away my soul. Like, that's my personality. That's what makes me lovable. Okay.
I like that. I like Scott Bearded Picker. I only have 2 listed items this month. It's the damn promoted listing scam killing my sales.
So Connecticut Girl is very sad, because apparently she feels like I don't sing for them for you guys anymore. And she wants me to do the super chat song as Culture Clubs. Do you really want to? Well, I don't know how would I do the super chat with that? Do you really want a super chat? I don't even know the song well enough, but I do have the Karma Chameleon one that I did like a while ago that was like super chat, super chat. Vicky can suck it, yeah. You tell me not to sing, but here's my super chat. Jerk.
Whatever. Got Dynasty in the house. Soul Taker. Yep, that's me. That's me. We missed you at the meetup last night, my friend. Allison says maybe you should step down. So we've got a few people that are new in the chat that I did say some names.
Where's it?
Circivus.
Oh, right here. Circivus 1.
James Kinney, 2 new subs that made a comment in there.
Hey, what's up, James? There was a really good comment from Liz, Colorado Reworn. She said, I used to be part of the Negative Nancy Club. It was easier to complain and make it someone else's fault. When I left all that behind and changed my mindset, sales soared. What we always say about that is that, it's human nature to want to place blame on something outside of you, because if you do that, you don't have to make any changes to yourself, because it's hard to acknowledge that maybe there's something you're doing that you could be doing better. And that's just the way humans are in general. And the only problem is when we're talking about business, if all you do is worry about what somebody else is doing or what the company's doing that's hurting you, then what are you going to change? Because it's you don't have to change anything. So you just, I guess, wallow in it and continue to do poorly. Or you can be okay, can't control this. What can I control? Here's some things I can do to change things.
You can control your business. You cannot control the edicts that come down from eBay as far as their changes on the platform, or the things that they're going to change, or when the fees get raised, or when, promoted listings changes, whatever. None of these things are things that you can control. You can control your business, your end of the street, your side of the street, your listing, your business policies, taking care of your customers. That's the stuff that you can control.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff is the stuff that's just the cost of being allowed to sell on a platform that gives you the visibility that nothing else does. Yeah. I mean, the reality is the eBay is still the best game in town. I don't care who you are. If you're selling one-off items, or if you're selling, a lot of thrifted items and sourced items that we do, and that a lot of you guys do, it's a lot, there's no other place that you can do it this well.
Kent, how dare you? He says, stop complaining about complaining. Listen, this is our time to complain about complaining. But seriously,
Allison, because my phone's on. Allison's a jerk. Allison's messaging me. I want to make your phone play a notification.
But that's not to say that anytime something happens, you just have to take it and do nothing. Like we said, you should be trying to make your voice heard. If there's something that you don't like, finding a constructive way to give that feedback does matter. Participating in groups like the Boss Group. It does matter, because sometimes, if there is a big enough of a voice being heard, that changes do happen. And then the other part of it is, if you're really unhappy with a certain platform, start branching out, start listening. That's why I started listing on Etsy last year, because I was not feeling so great about all the issues on eBay. And now it's like I'm doing really well on Etsy. So we've had a couple of super chats, trying to find them. I know Mary did a $5 one. Here we go. Firebird, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And then I haven't seen Red Neckerson's resales in a while.
No, he's been in the hospital.
I know he's been in the hospital. But here he is with wrong one. Here he is with the $1.63 super chat from Nate. He just was in the hospital. I think they sucked out some kidney stones or something like that.
They had something going on with some kidney stones. I hope you're feeling better.
But $1.63 super chat from Red Neckerson's resales, our favorite redneck. So let me do a little bit of a yay! Like that? He's been around for a while. Anyway.
Alexis says, please stop solving my problems. I would like to continue complaining. I think some people, yes.
Yeah, so Victoria said, Victoria Smith says, the platform changes every day, what buyers are looking for, how many buyers show up on any given day, what the competition is doing, and how many competitors there are, etc. So the only thing you can do is try to be the best of the best.
Yep. Mary did not get a song.
Oh, sorry. Mary, I'm so sorry about the lack of super chat song for your $5 super chat. How's that? Is that acceptable?
No, but that's it'll do.
How dare you? How dare you?
It'll have to do. So yeah, we have 271 people
holy cannoli
watching live. That might be our biggest.
It's pretty big.
Live. That's pretty close.
We did go all out. Like I was like, oh, something big happened today with Devin Wenig stepping down. We better capitalize on that. Get a little bit of clickbait going on.
Us and everybody else.
Although, right, we're not the only ones. Although I will say, it's not. I don't know. Is it still clickbait when you actually do deliver? Because we're talking about this. It's a real deal. But anyway, it's something, it's got to be addressed. And the reality is, like, don't worry about it. Keep doing your work. But I do think it matters. You should be paying attention to what's going on. This is if you're a full-time eBay seller, then this is your job. This is your business. You want to know, at some point things do affect you. So
Boom Boom says lots of filler. How about more useful content?
Well,
Boom Boom doesn't like our show. All right. That's okay.
That's okay. We're okay with that. Carrie Berry's mom, $5 super chat. I haven't seen you in the super chat. I haven't seen you in the chat in a while, or maybe I'm just not paying attention because I'm too busy rambling.
No, she hasn't been in the chat as much.
You want to give her a little super chat?
I don't sing. We know this.
You rap. Can you give her a super chat rap?
No.
Why not?
I rap, really?
Can you? Yeah,
really?
Well, when you have a few drinks and you're at karaoke, suddenly it's time for Beastie Boys.
Well, that's white girl rapping.
Carrie Berry's mom, Thank you so much for this super chat. We really, really appreciate it. Anyway, let's see. Do we have any? We got a few minutes here, guys. If anybody has any questions or anything else they would like to say.
Red Neckerson, Nathan says, I've really missed y'all. We've missed you too, sweetie. Still sick, but they haven't fixed him yet. They started mom on hospice yesterday. Well, I've been thinking about you. I hope you're feeling better soon. And I'm glad that mom's getting the care that she needs so that you can take care of yourself right now.
You know what? And hospice is actually a really, really good thing because they say, you get much better care on hospice than you do just going to the doctor or being in the hospital, because you usually have like a dedicated person that's taking care of you and knows exactly what you need. And so there's actually a lot of statistics out there that say going to hospice actually extends people's lives and the quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyone that's ever had a family member or a loved one being taken care of through hospice workers, they are angels. Mm-hmm. It's a necessary but welcome assistance in the process.
Bearded Picker says clickbait. Vicky wraps to your super chats. I know it's all a lie. It's all a lie.
That would be clickbait because it wouldn't work.
She won't do it. She won't do it, you guys.
Nope. Nope.
She's a real Debbie Downer.
I have to.
Next you're going to be telling us all about feline AIDS being the #1 killer of adult cats.
Debbie Downer. Wah, wah.
Seriously. So uncool and not appropriate content. Can you give us some more business content? Boom Boom is disappointed.
It's our downvote. Oh, goodness.
I apologize.
So Noki, if you worked for hospice, then God bless you for doing that. Honestly, there is very few jobs that I admire more. I really have a soft spot in my heart for people that work in the healthcare industry. Yeah. And so hospice is an amazing gift for the family as a whole. So I think it's amazing. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Anyway, all right, we just got a few minutes here, and then we got other stuff to do.
Lorna, why did you time out Carrie Berry's mom?
I don't know. Did she get the wrong person?
I think you hit the wrong thing, honey.
Oh, poor Carrie Berry's mom.
Untime her out.
At least you could still hear us if you're watching. We apologize. I can't believe you just attacked somebody.
So anyway, we addressed it. As anyone else can say, we don't know a heck of a lot about why Devin has stepped down, but it makes sense. I mean, lots of times in those type of positions, people don't last forever. It's not something nobody stays as CEO or CFO of a company forever.
8 years is a long time.
8 years is a long time. They do the best they can do in the time that they're there. And when people, when the company changes, they feel like they've filled their end of the bargain and they can do no more, they move on.
Yeah.
So Gemma Treasure says, I love you guys. This show rocks. I was thrifting when you guys were in Arizona and was hoping I would see you both in T-Money. Well, I'm sorry we didn't run into you. We did do a meetup in the Phoenix area. So while we were there, that was a good time too. We had 40 something people at that meetup. That was a big meetup.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
At someone's house, which was awesome. They
have a much bigger house than us, though. We were pretty packed last night. We're gonna have to bring in some more chairs.
Yeah, so we had 20 something people last night. We can fit about 30 comfortably in the house. I'm gonna have to, if we continue to get larger. I don't mind having it in the house. Actually, I prefer. But we're just gonna have to, spread out the furniture a little bit differently.
Dana's here, which means the dogs are about to go bananas.
Yep. Here we go. Dana's here to take pictures today, and there go the dogs.
She gives them lots of treats, so they lose their ever-loving minds. Nature Girl, they did not say who the next CEO is going to be, which is part of what makes me think that Devin quit and they did not have a plan in place. And so, they basically just have the interim. And while they look for, Scott? I can't remember his last name. While they're looking for a new CEO. So
the CFO has stepped up.
Well, no, the vice president Scott has stepped into the CEO position. Yeah, the CFO. And then somebody else, I can't remember who, has stepped into the CFO position as an interim CFO. So it's gonna.
Kent, you get my vote.
Yeah.
Kent says I'm applying.
Yeah, I think so. I think what we could use from the next CEO is just a lot of really
a
lot of really inappropriate jokes.
Yes. Yeah, Kent has the right answer. There was a question there. Circivus1 says, I feel like a creep when I scan items at the thrift store. How can I cure my anxiety? Kent's correct.
Just do
Scan
it.
more.
Just do
Just
it.
keep doing it.
You'll get used to it. And the reality is, first of all, the one thing is the vast majority of people in the world don't care what you're doing. You know, we as humans tend to be self-conscious or think that other people, you know, we think about ourselves first. So we think that we're more important than we probably are. And the reality is most people don't even know that you exist when you're in that thrift store. And a small number of people that might notice, most of them aren't going to even know what you're doing. And the very few number who might have an issue with it are jerks. Because why would you care? Like I see people scan stuff and it's like,
who cares?
I'm like, what? Oh, there's another reseller scanning stuff.
Just don't be obnoxious with it. Like some people are obnoxious with it. They pile everything into a cart and stand there and block the
or they're taking their scanner and they're like throwing it up in the air, spinning around, catching it, scanning stuff. And it's just like, come on, you're really making a big deal out of nothing. Now you're showing off and it's too much. Okay. That might've been Kent though. Maybe we didn't know it. I feel like he would do that.
It might
Lots
be.
of spinning
It might
kicks, backflips. No, maybe even make it doing like boop every time he scans something. Boop. What do you think?
You get embarrassed scanning. I get embarrassed just shopping with her. So,
That's true.
You know?
It's true. That's true. Sometimes I just walk funny just to embarrass her. And then what the problem is that she overshows her hand. If she would just act like it didn't bother her, I wouldn't do it. But then she shows me that she's embarrassed. And then I'm like, oh, I'm cranking this up to
11.
20. Yeah. So it's like, you just need to stop acting like you care. I mean, inside be dying.
But I'm going to die quietly.
Outwardly act like you don't even care.
Apparently, that's what I need to do.
See, Kent busted again. I knew it. I knew it. I knew you were one of those, Kent. Anyway, all right, it's noon. We got to get back to work.
Susie Biatch says no more scanner twerking in public.
Oh, boo.
You know what? Hey, Scott says I've been buying a lot of bras lately. You'd be amazed the looks a big bearded guy gets buying hundreds of bras and butt pads.
Yeah. Now that probably does come across as a little...
Get your freak on.
That probably does come across as a little creepy.
Get your freak on. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, but you just don't have to worry about it. That's like, I'll buy, like, if I buy, like, I think we were at one of the places in Arizona, one of the Savers, and I was buying, like, a whole bunch of jackets at one place, and somebody was like, the guy behind the counter was like, oh, must be getting ready for winter. It's like, yeah, that's what I usually do. Is I buy myself 10 new jackets for winter. Gotta prepare for winter in the 105-degree weather. Just fine. I always go, I basically do like a, I do like a little obligated laugh, like, and then I say, yep. That's pretty
not awkward at all.
Yeah, I go, yep.
All right, kids, I got to go work.
All right. See you later, guys. Sorry for the not good enough content for today, but we appreciate you. We love you. Thanks for watching. And
thanks for watching us, guys. And we'll have our show on Sunday, but we want to let you know that next week there will be no Wednesday or Sunday show. We will be gone the entire week. And we will not, we're taking a vacation week.
We're going to be in California.
We're going to be working. We'll be volunteering at the annual Burn Conference. Yeah. And we're going to be in California. We'll do a little bit of playing while we're there for sure. But there'll be no show.
Tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be on the Rockstar Flippers channel. We're going to be hanging out with Casey on his live show. So if you didn't get enough of non-content from us, non-productive business content from us,
you can get it from him.
You can come and watch our show tomorrow night with Casey at 6 p.m. Pacific time and complain there about us. So what do you think?
There, perfect. Perfect.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.